Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking about a different type of movement that was sweeping through America at this time, and it is the women's rights movement. So women fight for reforms. A spirit of reform permeated American life in the early and middle 1800s. Women took active roles in the abolition movement and other reform movements. Soon, some of these reformers began to work to gain equality for women as well. Their effort would lay the groundwork for women's struggle for equal rights over the next 100 years. Now, we are not going to bring women's rights to a resolution in this lesson or this chapter, sadly. We are going to see a continual fight for expanded rights and expanded opportunities for women all throughout this class. In the early 1800s, American women lacked many basic legal and economic rights. Under the ancient legal traditions that dominated the United States, women usually could not hold property or hold office or vote, and they were discouraged from speaking at public gatherings. Formal educational opportunities for American women were virtually unheard of. In the rare instances of divorce, husbands generally gained custody of children. So we're seeing here, like, American women's rights were very, very far behind those of men at this time. We're going to talk a minute about matrilineal cultures. Some of the groups living in America, certain American Indians, African Americans, and Mexican Americans, had a tradition of affording women a significant amount of power. In these cultures, women controlled or influenced work patterns and family structures. Some cultures were matrilineal, that is, the inheritance of family names and property followed the female line in the family. But for most American women, legal and economic rights lagged far, far behind those of American men. Women are going to start to take advantage of new opportunities. The drive to reform American society created by the Second Great Awakening provided new opportunities for women. Many joined reform groups sponsored by their churches. Women played leading roles in all of the great reform movements of the day. Catherine Beecher, Emma Willard, Elizabeth Blackwell, and Ann Preston advanced education during the public school movement. Dorothy Dix almost single-handedly launched reforms in the way the country treated prisoners and people who suffered from mental illness. Most community leaders of the temperance movement were women. After all, they and their children were the primary victims of alcohol abuse among men. Okay, so we have a chart here that's going to illustrate the political and economic status of women in the early 1800s. Once again, women could not vote, women could not hold public office, women could not serve on juries, few women received any level of higher education, women could not work in most trades or professions. When they did work, women were paid less than men doing the same jobs, and their fathers or husbands often took what money they did earn. Married women lost legal control of any money or property they owned before marriage to their husbands. Married women could not testify against their husbands in court, sue for divorce, or gain custody of their children. So we're seeing that women were really getting the short end of the stick in society at this time. Sojourner Truth. The abolition movement attracted some of the most thoughtful women of the day, including Angelina and Sarah Grimke. Many abolitionist groups, like the Philadelphia Female Anti-Slavery Society, were made up entirely of women. One of the most effective abolitionist lecturers was Sojourner Truth, a former slave from New York who held audiences spellbound with her powerful speeches. People would show up from all around to come hear this woman speak, which was amazing for culture at that time because, one, she was a former slave, and two, she was a woman. You know, both things that were not really respected in this society. So the fact that people would show up to hear her speeches and to hear her lectures was quite something for that day. Women enter the workplace. In the 1820s and 1830s, the Northeast was rapidly industrializing. This provided the first real economic opportunity in the nation's history for women to work outside the home. Thousands of young women who previously would have stayed in the family home went to work in the new mills and factories. This gave many women a small degree of economic independence, although their wages were typically sent to the husbands or fathers, and a large degree of social independence as they developed networks of friendships with other factory workers. By 1830, a few women's labor unions had formed, and some groups had held strikes for better wages and working conditions. So we're starting to see a gradual integration of women into more of the society, more of the economy and things like that. So this is a very small but gradual change. Women fight for reforms. Women clothes of the 1800s, which limited movement, seem to symbolize the restriction based on women's lives. Yeah, as you can tell, you see how this picture of women, and they have these big gowns that were heavy to wear. So it kind of symbolized their limited mobility in society as well. Disagreement within the women's movement. The women who spoke up for full equality were a small minority, however. Even among abolitionists, there was disagreement about how much public leadership women should take. When an international abolitionist convention met in London in 1840, the group fractured over whether women should be allowed to join in the men's business meetings. Some abolitionists thought that they should not. Two who thought they should were Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Both Mott and Stanton were active reformers, supporting particularly the temperance and abolitionist causes. Mott had helped to form the American Anti-Slavery Society and the Philadelphia Female Anti-Slavery Society. Stanton was married to a leading abolitionist, Henry Stanton. Both Elizabeth and Henry were already keenly interested in women's rights. These two women, outraged that women were refused full participation at a meeting to discuss the promotion of human decency and equality, were inspired to take a dramatic step to advance women's rights. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions or need to get a hold of me, you know how to do that. I hope everybody's having a great day, and I'll see you again real soon.